Good morning, YouTube. Archman here. This is the first time I kind of did like an announcement for one of these goofy ass live videos that I've done. 1 minute early currently. One viewer currently. What's up, one viewer? Yeah, so I thought I just would kind of talk a little bit about the neon. There are obviously several videos about the neon and the neon ultralight, and hopefully this can add a little something to the information in those videos. I don't really plan on taking this apart or anything. The main purpose of this is going to be I have my phone really precariously placed, so if I want to let's see, focus on that fucking ruler, I have to shake my phone and it's not fucking doing it. So we'll see if we can figure that out. But yeah, so really, uh, I guess I've been interested in the neon for God since I first saw him. Really, it, I'm not too much of a small knife guy, honestly. Like the knives that I personally carry the most are like a lot of you guys right there in the 3.5 inch range. I feel like is kind of ideal, not just for blade length, but also typically the handle length that gives you. I have extra large hands. I'm 6'5", so you can see here, just my hand is, I guess, right at 4 inches, which is not huge, not small, but not huge. Um, it's interesting though, because like a lot of specs, it's always, you guys know, it's impossible to know what a knife is going to be like until you have it in your hand. Because you could say like, oh, a small Sebenza is right at 4 inches, but really your hand real estate, you can see, is just under 3.5 inches. So the small Sebenza is just that. It's small. It minuscule. In comparison to like a large Sebenza, but like this neon, I mean, it really does. It's medium Sebenza size. Obviously you got one that's 3.5 or just under 3.5, three or sorry 3.25, and just over 3.5. So just under 3.25, just over 3.5, and man, that's a great little middle ground there. A lot of people say like, oh, is the Shirogorov neon, is it like a small Sebenza killer? And I would have to say no, just because quality of manufacture. Like, is it? Both of these I've taken down and cleaned the shit out of them, just so I can have them in their best behavior. And this one is not on its best behavior, the neon, and I'll get into that a little bit later, hopefully. Um, but yeah, so I really just wanted my small Sebenza to be, I guess, as well tuned as I normally ever have it, so, which is, not, I don't know. I like my knife more snug than a lot of people do. Like, I don't need or want like a free swinging blade, at any point. It's not something that I like. I don't know. It's not necessarily like a safety standpoint or anything like that. I know how to get my fingers out of the way of the blade when I'm opening and closing it. Typically, sometimes I will bite myself, but it's pretty rare. Um, Little coffee, no big deal. This is a cool mug. This is my from our wedding party. This is where the wedding party stayed. So we got a couple of those mugs with our room. Um, but you can see there, it's I have, what oil do I have? I actually really like this oil. This is what I have on these knives. Um, it's just like a gun oil. It's not, I don't know exactly what you would call it weight wise, but I will say it's a lot better than what came on this knife, which I got secondhand. Um, the previous owner said in their threat sales post that they got to look at several neons at the Recon 1 shop, and they chose this one because it has the best detent and a bunch of other bullshit like that. So, yeah, I got this knife for $550, which seems like a pretty good deal for like a completely not like new one, which this one definitely was. I mean, not a mark on it. Definitely the edge is Shirogorov, factory perfect. This is only the second Shiro that I've had. I did do extremely poor video quality Hati review, I don't even know, 5 years ago or something like that. Interestingly enough, that was right at the start of the Shirogorov craze, I would say, because that was when True North Knives was the only. Well, that's a lot better, isn't it? True North Knives was the only North American distributor. Also back when they were still in Canada, and I got that Hati for, I think it was the S30V washer Hati for, I want to say right at 550 or under, and I sold it for like 700. I hate to do that, but that's not a very normal thing for me. Like usually I'll dick up my knives and have to take a pretty good bath on them, but whatever, I don't fucking care. It's like I always look at like checking out a knife. I prefer to buy knives new, I would say. So just because I want I don't want to be able to blame shit on anybody, So, I don't know. Yeah, the knife is pretty sweet. I've been carrying this knife now for 11 days, every day. But I've been piggybacking it with other knives. My favorite piggyback knife is, just for comparison's sake, another, I guess you could call it gentleman's knife, but it's not necessarily that. I guess this fucker is trying to autofocus, but my little roadie, which I love this little roadie. I bought this knife I went to a knife shop and I was looking for a modern slip joint and hoping they actually would have the Benchmade proper to look at. And this focus is just dog shit. They did not, but he was like, oh, we have these cool little Spyderco slip joints. And I was like, oh, I bet he's talking about the roadie. Held this one in my hand and went, fuck yeah, this is sweet. A lot of times when I'm at a knife shop, I will request to look at several as well. Like, I might look at one and find some kind of little defect on it. Like, do you have any more of these behind the counter? And they fucking roll their eyes, and you're like, look, shithead. I mean, like, I don't know. I think I paid like $90 for this little fucker, which is pretty funny. This is the knife I gave to my groomsman's for my wedding. And I also gave them one of these Maverick Workshop beads. Not this exact bead, but a different one that I was able to get 3 of for matching. Yeah, so yeah, I've been piggybacking this knife with something else every step of the way. This one is another one that I've been piggybacking it with, smaller knives. Actually, a knife that my wife got me for my birthday is one that I've been piggybacking it with, which is a cool knife. This is a Lion Steel M1, which I didn't plan on comparing, but I guess they're kind of both gentlemen's knives anyway. I guess pretty much comparable in usability, I guess. Another thing that's interesting I just kind of thought of with like blade length is, I mean, you guys know because I'm talking about it, but which one of these has more cutting edge? Actually, it is the Neon, which by a pretty good amount too. 3/16 of an inch at least. But I would still say this is my favorite knife, though. I really, really like this Hinder XM18 non-flipper. I personally am not at all interested in that tri-way pivot shit. To be honest with you, I could fucking care less about bearings at all. I would prefer, I'm gonna let my dog out real quick. Come on, man, go outside. I would prefer no fucking bearings. If they sold this knife, this Neon, with or without bearings, like with washers, and that was an option, I would choose washers every single time, even if it was more, you know, reasonably more, 15, 25, $50 more. I would pay more for washers, because that I had was every bit as, and this is the MRBS, you know, so it's supposed to be the shit. And it is the shit, but it's not any more the shit than a bearing knife or knife on washers for me. Um, Probably the best action of any of the knives that I own is this large Sebenza 21. This is a 2009. Shit, I can't remember exactly. Probably, I remember I got this in the middle of the summer 2009. So it probably is a, you know, early 2009 model. Solid washers, pre-Idaho made. Um, this is a knife that I really, this was my one, it really was my only knife at one point, just from buying, selling, trading, moving around, traveling, and whatnot. So I've used the ever living shit out of this knife, but I consider it like almost a grail, to be honest. This 2009 large Sebenza 21, I think, is probably one of the best damn knives that's ever been made. It doesn't have the holes in this side, which I think offers more utility, because shit doesn't get in there and dick with your, you know, threads of your fucking knife. It's better for, you know, everything. No dirt, water, shit can't get in there. Same thing with the no holes, no fucking holes, nothing to fuck up in this knife. Also, you know, XM18s are great at that too. The only thing is, I personally like to be able to just take my knife and fucking scrub it and wash it with dishes and toss it on the dish rack, or I'll dry it out pretty good, toss it on the dish rack. A lot of water gets trapped between the G10 and the titanium scale on the XM18 when you do that. But it's a good knife for it because it has the Teflon washers, so water doesn't stay in the pivot like it does on, say, this motherfucker, or also the small Sebenza. The small Sebenza has the fucking holes in the washers. I feel like the verdict, at least for me, is kind of out on how that does with bearing knives. As far as like taking this knife and just washing it out in the sink, I don't know how well it would do. I will end up doing that. I haven't, and I'll kind of discuss why I'm not doing that yet, but I will at some point. I have taken this knife apart. We'll just kind of get right into it, I guess. I have taken this knife apart, and there is that Nick Shabazz video. Here's a comparison I don't think I've seen. It's a motherfucker. Like, taking a knife apart with loose bearings sucks every dick on F Street. I mean, it's a real bitch. Like, you can see quite a bit more cutting edge than this Griptilion. But yeah, dude, what a motherfucker. Taking this thing apart and cleaning it. Again, one of the most important criteria for me for a knife is I want to be able to never have to take it apart. I don't want to think, oh, there's a bunch of shit trapped in the pivot, so I really do need to take this apart. You know, such as having like a fucking captive pivot or a stop pin where there's the big cutout, you know, like a Grimsmo Norseman, or like there's so many knives that have this bullshit, and like that absolutely will get gunked up and you know, shit will get in there and you cannot fucking clean it, you know? So it's like, unless you have to take those shits apart, which I think is just fucking moronic, honestly. Like, that's a huge flaw for me. That's like if you had a pistol that's, you had to get in there and take out all the little springs and shit, you know, every now and then, which maybe you do, fuck, I don't know. I'm a Glock guy, so I just rinse it off in the sink. Just kidding. I don't really do that. But yeah, man, this motherfucker, all these little bearings are a bitch. Whoa! The people viewing just cut in half. Oh, just lost another one. Whatever. I feel like this video is, because I mean, nobody's even commenting. So like, I feel like this video is, if it's helpful at all, it might be helpful for people later on that are thinking about buying a Neon and want to research it a little bit, because I researched the fuck out of it. I've watched every damn Neon video out there, of course, you know, before buying it. one Spyderco Delica, which if you guys know me, you know I do not love the Delica. I pretty much just have this one, whatever, just in case I lose my other backpack knife, which is probably the only knife I don't have with me right now, which is an Endura, a Spyderco Endura green. So getting back to taking this knife apart, those bearings are a motherfucker. I mean, I get that. I understand that. And that I'm going to have to take this knife apart one more time. But I'm not going to take it apart ever again after that. So I got this knife and the pivot just kept free. It just, like, probably every 10 times I flipped it, the pivot was unscrewing, like to the point where it started to get a little blade play. Like I checked it quite often. Actually, you can see my fucking thumbnails all fucked up from breaking it off and keeping, tightening and tightening and tightening this thing. And man, I would put Loctite in there and it was still free spinning. I cleaned it out as good as I could, with the Q-tip inside the pivot, cleaned off the screw, put more Loctite in it. I tried a different Loctite. I have two brands of like Loctite, and then I have Vibratite. None of those would fucking lock this pivot down. It just kept on going. So I was like, all right, goddamn it, I'm gonna have to take this shit apart. So I took out my Frisbee and took the knife apart, only to discover a very unfortunate thing, which is the seller that I got this knife from lost not one, not two, not five, but six fucking of the little BBs inside the pivot and did not fucking tell me in the sales thread. There was a little kind of obscure thing he said in it that said, let's just say it takes balls to take this to disassemble this knife. And I think that was their way of disclosing that it was missing balls. The one thing that really upset me is the balls that it was missing were on the back side, like, so you might even not notice if you were just kind of to take it apart and check or something and put it back on. And it was all like clumped together. So like it was fucking ridiculous. And I will say though, it still worked pretty. I would not have thought that it was missing bearings. So the way I have it now, I have some ceramic bearings on order from Amazon. But the way I have it now is I symmetrically left 3 missing on either side. 3, So, and this motherfucker has 14 bearings per side. Hey, Lems. I love that when people yell at their fucking dogs on the goddamn YouTube video. Yeah, so that blows, huh? I mean, again, though, I don't like, because people who, like, I'm not going to complain about it. I sent him a nasty, more or less nasty private message. He sent me 2 back so far. I haven't even read them. I don't fucking care. Like, I'm not, like, out to get the guy. I will not leave him negative feedback. I will not mention it. And I'm not, like, other than this, like, I'm not going to shit on the person. Because I guess I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. It's possible that you could be fidgeting with this fucking thing and you bastard and then fucking putting it back together and somehow drop a couple BBs, get the shit together and fucking call it good. I have no idea. That's one thing too about like buying secondhand knives is that there's something thing about it that person don't like, that they're not actually disclosing. Like, oh, man, fuck, I think this thing's on its way to getting some nasty blade play. I better sell this fucker, or whatever. And then, it's too small for my liking or whatever, But, yeah, that's a fucking bummer. But whatever, I ordered 100 ceramic bearings off of some seller on fucking Amazon. Of course, they're using some goddamn shipping method you've never fucking heard of. That's like, it'll be there in 12 days. Like, you rat bastard. That sucks. So I was unable. I hoped I could get those fucking bearings in before doing this video. But again, it's missing 6 bearings. That's a fucking bunch, huh? Like, I was really, really fucking bummed, man. I was like, fuck, man, like, how did I lose these shits? But man, I was super careful. I really don't think I would have lost them. I took my fucking big magnet for picking up screws on a job site and fucking went around the whole goddamn room, everywhere, just in case. I was like, no fucking bearings. So like, I didn't, yeah. whatever. I don't want to harp on that too much. It's not a fucking big deal. It sucks for such an expensive knife, and it is complete horse shit. But at the end of the day, it's not a fucking big deal. What else should I put out here to compare this thing to? Being 325, it's comparable to fucking everything, I think, Honestly, I should put some nicer knives out there, I guess. But it, it so far, I've only had this fucking knife for 11 days, 11 whole days. Carried it every day, probably flipped it fucking 500 times or something. 200, I don't know. Not crazy, but because I'm a carpenter, I can't be dicking with my knife in the daytime. I'm working with my hands constantly. One of the things that I do like about this, and one of the reasons I sold my Hati, is just because I guess I'll say I like personally the size of the Hati better. 4 inches is kind of a motherfucker. Like that's a big ass blade. But again, I'm sure other people have. But I compared the Hati to. I wish this goddamn fucker would focus better. I compared the Hati to my military, and that Hati video, which is probably as bad as this quality is going to be, but poor quality, unfortunately. Much bigger than the Hati. It looks bigger, like everything about it. But yeah, that's the reason is the fucking Hati. I wanted to carry that shit every day, really, and I just was like, man, because technically in Colorado, 3.5 inches is what defines a knife, and with 0 viewers now. Well, no big deal, everybody. What defines a knife is that it's a capable of stabbing. First comment right there. With the Native 5. I was just talking about Hati real quick. I'll talk about the Native 5, which is definitely one of my favorite knives. I'll get this off of the screen. It's just the size. In Colorado, having a knife clipped to your pocket, I think is considered not open carry enough. You can carry this shit if it's open carry. Like if you know how you see like dick bags with their fucking knife like backwards, so it's like sitting on their belt just out for fucking God and everybody to fucking just, I think understand the law in Colorado. That's kind of how you would have to carry this fucker, like totally open carry. They really leave it vague. They leave it vague so the officer can like combine it with the. They're just stopping you to go, is that a Shirogorov? Goddamn, that's awesome. Then obviously that's cool. But if they're like, I think that guy's fucking, up to something, then they can fuck with you with your knife if they want to. But long story short, that's why that really is the main reason I sold my Hati. But all things considered, I would say I would favor it to this knife personally. Even if the Hati was also on bearings, which, please, for the love of God, I would so prefer washers on any other future Shirogorov I buy, which I'm wanting to try the either the F3R or the F95, one of the F95s. So I think that'd be really cool. One that's like has the milling inside to make it lighter. Lightning pockets. That's what they say. Lost another one. All right. Because the size of this thing, it's funny because like I every time when this is the only knife I have on me, I'm like, man, this thing is it's just so small, and it's not. That's the thing. It's not small. It's again, you really can't get an idea of a knife by its specs unless you have the shit in your hands. 325 is pretty damn like from a usability standpoint. You can see here if I do them like that, so you can see that they're definitely aligned. So I'll just kind of course that's gonna happen. I'm surprised it'll focus this close, though. I'm pretty close to my phone. filming on an iPhone 10, which I don't think fucking matters because it's gonna shit on the resolution to make it easier to stream live probably. Yeah, this, man, honestly, the native, one of the things that this knife just doesn't have, what I've been calling this is my Austin knife. It's my Austin knife. Because like Texas, this is perfectly legal in Texas because 5.5 is concealed, I think, is legal in Texas, blade. So that's fucking sweet. But it's super nice, very utilitarian, which that's kind of what I want out of my fucking such an expensive knife. You know, I want it to be sexy, absolutely. That certainly is a criteria. Just, I mean, performance is obviously the number one thing, but in this day and age, you really can't get it all for $550. But a native 5, especially the lightweight, I actually gave away my father-in-law, the carbon fiber native 5 that I did the video on, mainly because I actually bought him this knife, and one that I was like, this is kind of a fucking goofy ass little small knife, so I didn't feel good about giving him this thing. So I instead of giving him $100 knife, I gave him a $300 knife, which you'll have that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about the Native 5 other than it's such a great knife. It's the blade length is under most laws. I mean, it just looks like a tool. To me, I don't know. I think some people see like the hole and just the kind of stabby shape or whatever and kind of go, ooh, that's scary. But I think most people who have ever used a folding knife, carried it for a week or so before they fucked it up or lost it, would, if they're not a knife person, would look at this knife and see just a utility thing. Again, too, losing it, breaking it, damaging it does not break the bank when especially you can consider that you can buy 4 or 5 of these for the cost of one of those. What else do I have here to compare it to? You know, honestly, shit, I guess this Lil Native is a good knife to compare it to. The Lil Native is fucking badass, man. I really like it. It makes me, honestly, I hate to say that they would do a Native 5, golden made, Native 5, with a compression lock. Small little guy. This thing is teeny tiny. I forget what the blade length is on the Lil Native, but it's probably something along, here's a good comparison, because this one's dead on 3 inches. Yeah, so pretty damn close to 2.5. Yeah, Lil Native sweet though. They could both be considered gentleman's knives for sure. As far as the LMAX steel goes, in 11 days, I probably have cut 6 or 7 things with this knife, and they've all been just like easy peasy stuff, packaging, a little bit of food prep, more packaging. But so yeah, I can't really comment as far as how the LMAX is doing. But I will say that the Hati that I had was S30V, and it was fucking awesome. So I have a lot of faith. I mean, you can just look at these Russian dudes' fucking eyes and go like, oh, they're not fucking around. Like those guys they're in it to win it. They're trying to make fucking sweet knives. Also, like these are utility knives. They really are, man. Like again, like there's nothing you can knock on the design of any of the Shirogorovs. Like there's no bullshit. Like it does not have any of the captive pivot shit going on. The way that the screws are implemented and the standoffs and all that stuff, like they're making these knives as users. They really are. I mean, some of these fuckers are, $5,000, knives, but I really do believe that it'll stack up against any other knife, It's already 30 minutes, but whatever. I'm going to go for just a little bit longer. A lot of people, I'm actually going to refill my coffee for seconds. 0 viewers right now anyway. So the most requests have been to compare this knife with a small Sebenza. Um, and a lot of people are like, "That's a killer." And I kind of brushed on this early on the video, but there's no fucking way that a Shirogorov Neon is a small Sebenza killer, unless your number one priority is just dicking with the knife. You know, if you're buying a knife as a fidget gadget, then yeah, of course it does. But appreciating fidgeting with something is learned. It's not inherent, you know? So, like, I really like fidgeting with, and I've said this before, a backlock. Like, I just like this motion. I like that I have to roll it over in my hand to open and close it. You know, I think it's a cool thing. So, a person could really just enjoy the sensations that you get from opening and closing a small Sebenza, because it's smooth as fuck, and you know it does make like cool noises and stuff. Um, but the number one thing I would say, the reason Shirogorov Neon is not a small Sebenza killer, is it is under 3 inches, and it is every bit as much of a utility knife, maybe even just a skosh more of a utility knife than what you would consider the Neon. At the end of the day, it's a fucking million times easier to take down and clean. So that's pretty huge for me. And at the same time, like I just took this thing apart and cleaned it yesterday to kind of prepare for this video a little bit. And I mean, goddamn, I haven't taken it apart in a year probably, and I've carried it, I don't know, 20 times in that year. Not used the shit out of it, but used it as much as hard, or as quote hard, but as much as I would like this knife. I mean, this knife here is just, yeah. I feel no apprehension on using a small Semenza, just because I enjoy it so much too. Like I can hold this knife and I just kind of can appreciate it in every single way. And when you go like, oh, you know what? I don't even know how much a Neon is new. I'm guessing $600. Or Neon Ultralight, probably $600 if you can snag one from Recon One. Again, I paid $550 for it, so I guess a like new used small Sebenza is probably $300. So $550 for this, $250 difference. I mean, to consider that like you can probably get a fucking small Sebenza for $275. So now you're kind of like it is half the price. That's pretty fucking significant, because like, you know, at the end of the day, the only thing it really, I mean, yeah, a 1/4 inch more cutting edge, but that's not enough to make it, you know, that much more valuable. The only thing that it's going to offer is, I guess somebody could say that they like the looks of Neon more. Like they could be like, well, I think it's sexier. And in that case, man, you know, for me, just if a knife is a lot sexier than another knife, that's definitely worth $100 right there. If I'm really just attracted to the overall design, oh yeah, absolutely. That's worth some money right there. But for me, I don't think that's the case. I honestly believe, to me, I don't know. I think the small Sebenza is the sexier knife. It just has a je ne sais quoi and it's utilitarian looking, and it's, you know, clearly nice, you know, well made. I don't know. So yeah, the small Sebenza, it for me, it ticks all the boxes that I need a knife, a smaller knife to fill. And again, I think I said this on an Instagram comment that a small Sebenza, especially like a 21, I think, it can be your only knife. This could, fuck man, for most of my knife carry, or not most of it, but quite a bit of it early on, small Sebenza was my only knife, you know, and it filled every damn role that I could have possibly asked it to. Actually, there's only been a few knives. There's only been a few times where I've like moved and sold knives, or and just been down on my luck and sold knives or whatever. And there's the only knives that I've ever had that was my sole knife was small Sebenza. Has been my only knife. This large Sebenza was like I mentioned, was my only knife for probably a year, or close to a year maybe. And then oddly enough, a Delica has been, nope, I take that back. I've also had an S90V military as my only knife. When I first moved to the 248 Ghost Town, I really had simplified. I had at that point I was like, I want all my belongings to be able to fit in my Honda Civic. Woo! Those were dark days, folks. Dark days, actually, it was fucking amazing. It was exciting, exhilarating. Moving into that ruin with no fucking anything, no power, no water, no roof. No roof on that fucking ruin. Has your EDC changed, keychain, and light? Oh, well. Since you're the only one who commented before, I'll grab my EDC. It's over here on the front door. It has changed a little bit because I took off. I mean, this is a Shirogorov video, but fuck it, whatever. The reason I wanted to do it live is because I wanted to do shit based on questions. You know, like that's I don't know what I was hoping to do, but it didn't work out so far. But yeah, we'll talk about this EDC keychain. I added a bead here. I took this bead off of my It's a little Surefire 1, 2, 3 single cell light because it kept fucking coming off. So I had it slipped over the clip. But yeah, so now I have this Maverick Workshop bead on here and this Atwood bead. The Atwood bead is still my fave. I mean, that's just a cool ass bead. And this thing, man, it's just been banging around on my keychain for like, shit. I got this thing 2 years ago, I'd say. And literally, did I put it on this light immediately? No, I think I got the light a little bit later. But yeah, dude, honestly, still, this light, this little Titan, Surefire Titan, they seem like they're not worth it, I guess, because they're expensive for what they are. But dude, this thing, I mean, it always works. Like I have a Prion, it's a piece of shit compared to this thing. This thing every time, high low, unless the battery's starting to run out, and then it's just you can't really tell. It never activates by accident. It's just so great. It always works. The threads feel just like perfect. Still, and I use the shit out of this light, man. I really do. What I like to do is use it as a headlamp. I'll just turn the light on, hook it in my shirt, and it just kind of stays in my shirt when it's out of my shirt collar. Other than that, yeah, love this fucking carabiner. It's awesome. The at wrench is the shit, man. Like honestly, I use this thing all the time. You can tell this has been rubbed on the keys, but yeah, that's it for that. But yeah. I think I did an EDC video, or maybe if I didn't, then I'll do another one. New CRK slip joint. I will absolutely be picking up that slip joint. Absolutely. Just to do it, just to look at it, just to fuck with it, you know. I was going to get a Hinder or Slippy. Also, let me just say this right now. There's some dude on Blade forums on the exchange right now selling like 5 fucking Hinder or Slippies. I think he must be a dealer that's going out of business or something for $210 each. And he has like 5 of them on there. So like, that's pretty fucking awesome. I almost picked one up this morning. I was like, oh fuck, like, resist. So I resisted. I backed away from it and did not buy one. But man, because you could buy that shit. Definitely fuck with it. Post a video if you want, or do whatever you want, and then resell it for $210 all fucking day. You could wipe your ass with that fucking thing and sell it for $210. Not that that's recommended, like we discussed, you know. Or you could, full disclosure, this is for ass people. But yeah, I don't know. I think I talked enough about the old small Sebenza. Again, one of the best knives ever made. I just because it can go anywhere, really. And I mean, nobody's ever going to look at this knife and think that it's overly stabby or not just a tool looking knife. And also, it's really not that fancy looking unless you just have an eye for quality, I think. So there's that. It is very comparable to a large Sebenza. 40 minutes now. Oh, nobody's ever going to watch this whole fucking thing. Whatever. Maybe a couple more people will chime in here lively in a live setting. But yeah, look at that cutting edge compared to the large Sebenza, which is as far as folders go, I consider the large Sebenza kind of like, I don't just fucking whip it out in front of God and everybody all the time. I'm hesitant. But yeah, very comparable. And you start thinking about that. I mean, this thing carries so small, this neon. That's one thing I really like about it. Again, I kind of talked about the Hati, and like I got rid of it because I really wanted to carry it, but I was just like, it's a big motherfucker. Even though it doesn't feel like a big knife, it doesn't look like a big knife. If for some reason, a police officer was to look at me and go, I bet he has a bigger dick than I do, and wants to come fuck with my knife, I could get in a person could get in some serious trouble. And I kind of fucking shoot from the hip, If I'm not having a great day and somebody comes up to me and starts giving me shit, there's going to be shit coming back, It doesn't matter if you have a badge on, unfortunately, I've found. But you can see they're about the same. I guess a Delica might be just a RCH thicker than the Hati. Also, the small Sebenza is an RCH thicker than the Hati. You really can't tell here, I don't think, but it actually is. The blade is thicker on the Hati, or I said Hati like probably 4 times just now on the neon, but the scales are thicker on the small Sebenza. That's really the only knock that I could give on this knife, is I would like to see it with thicker handle scales. It would be ideal. It would be really perfect if it had thicker handle scales. If just the knife was overall 1 millimeter thicker. I sold all my pocket knives except my large 21 SMF I don't use. Sebenza does everything I need. Absolutely. I mean, fucking A, man. It does. I mean, if you can swing it and you're comfortable carrying a large Sebenza, obviously a larger knife does offer more utility. So, I mean, as far as like large Sebenza versus small Sebenza, somebody's like, oh, Hammond and Han, which one's the one? I mean, look at that difference. That's like my wiener next to yours. Just kidding. There's no fucking comparison between a large Sebenza and a small Sebenza. It is a fucking lot bigger, the large. The large size is the original size. This shit is just scaled down so they could sell more, honestly, at the end of the day. But it would be hard for me to tell somebody that if they're going to buy one Sebenza, it shouldn't. If you're going to be a one knife person, I think it has to be a small Sebenza. A large Sebenza is more like part of a collection or a selection. I live in Texas. Yeah, that's right, man. You fucking can. Yeah. People give a lot of shit to Texas, but they're a pretty free state. And like, nobody fucks around because everybody's got strapped, like that's the thing. It's like there is no fucking crime because people respect one another just naturally, I feel like. What else? Nkosi? Okay, let's see. Yeah, the Nkosi, man, what a great fucking knife. Honestly, it's I guess I gotta let my Chiweenie in. 2 secs. It would be really hard for me to say that the Nkosi is not my favorite overall knife. The only reason that I say that the Nkosi is not my favorite overall knife is because of the fucking holes in the washers. I know that seems like a nitpicky, trivial thing, but I'm always gonna find something with a knife, and I cannot stand those goddamn holes in the fucking washers. They collect all kinds of fucking monkey dicks, it's just ridiculous. My overall favorite knife is the Rick Hinder XM18 non-flipper, and that's just because It actually does collect more gunk. There's more shit to collect gunk in this knife, but the pivot is not one of those areas because it has solid Teflon washers. Different kind works well for me and not others, so it doesn't count. Wait, what was free? Shit, I don't know. I didn't see what you said before. I walked away to let my dog out, so I didn't see the comment that was before that one. But yeah, that's what it is. I just don't. I feel like that's shit getting stuck in there could cause a problem, especially if it's like also there's a little bit of salt in there, or a little bit of orange juice, or apple from slicing an apple, or something acidic. Like I don't want that shit to get caught in there, and it absolutely does get caught in the holes of the Sebenzas and the Nkosis. It's funny because like I feel like they gotta know that. They fucking have to know that over at Chris Reeve Knives. But I think they won't admit it because they're like, fuck, like they don't, I don't know. What do you do at that point? If you're like, shit, maybe, okay, putting the holes in the washers is not a good idea. So shit, I guess we're gonna have to back paddle and send everybody out free washers. I guess I don't have to do that, but. Anywho, I guess real quick, paramilitary 2. I'm in my kitchen and my wife's going to be home from the gym here pretty soon. And she's going to want to cook food, so I'm going to have to wrap this up. Oh, 3 viewers now. This is awesome. Close to the height. I think the height of this video, I think there were like 10 at once or something like that. So yeah. Good stuff, guys. Well, I guess... I will be posting another video about this. You ever get around to trying an num? I did have an nums on for like 1 week. Didn't love it. Yeah, I just didn't love the look of it. But yeah, I think that's it. I will again. I'll post another. If you guys post comments in this video, I will address those in the next video that I do on the Shirogorov neon, because I might as well. I'm here in a week or so. I'll have bearings. This one is the LMAX, which whatever you research LMAX and it's like supposedly very high toughness, very high corrosion resistance. That's all I need. And eventually, I don't. This knife's not going anywhere. I like it for sure. It fills the role for me. It's like a gentleman's carry. It's well within the limits of legal carry. Pretty much anywhere I'm gonna go here in Colorado. So it's this is gonna be an EDC for not being at work. Right, exactly. TCM says LMAX is fine. ZG just screwed it up. That's clear. It's a total misconception that LMAX is just dog shit because of and ruin their reputation. Exactly. Yeah. I had an LMAX. It was either a scrapyard or one of the affiliates of Bussy Knives, and it was. I noted that it was a bit of a bitch to sharpen versus the edge holding. But I think they ran it pretty fucking hard, if I'm not mistaken. It was the Sicko, the Scrapyard Max 3.5. I think that they said they ran it like a lot, like 3 fucking points high or something like that. But yeah, questions, comments, smart remarks, please post that down below. Like and subscribe if you want. Leave me comments on Instagram if you want. Contact me on all this shit if you want. Archie Blue on Blade Forums. I am Archman with a G, Archman on Instagram. And Palabra a tu madre, boys and girls.